Let's talk about it. 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 On the Vera Thomas Show. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited today. My guest is Sonia Serta, and I'm going to pull her up. How are you today, Sonia?
I'm fine. Thank you so much, Vera.
I am so excited about you being here. And let me just share with our audience a little bit about Sonia Serta. She is the owner of Breakthrough Counseling, Coaching, and Conflict Management Training in Cheyenne, Wyoming. She is a speaker and soon to be published author. She is a member of a Toastmasters Club and Speakers Live, developing her speaking skills. She is also a certified ICF coach, which stands for International Coaching Federation, with a wealth of experience spanning over 25 years in mental well being, 15 years as a professional mediator, and a background as a conflict management specialist, ICF certified coach. She has dedicated her life to fostering mental well being. She was also an executive pastor, an associate pastor, and was the National Day of Prayer coordinator in Wyoming for 5 years, receiving her initial training from a seminary in Missouri. She had the privilege of being the event coordinator of a Convoy of Hope outreach in 2013. She has worked with military and their families for 20 plus years, traveling to various military installations, most recently at NATO and Army installations in the Netherlands. Yes, she founded and operated a behavioral health program in a medical clinic. Her work includes counseling at a juvenile inpatient clinic and has a private practice working with adults and couples. She specializes in working with trauma and conflict management. So glad you're here and so excited that we're going to be talking about some things that can impact on lives. But let's get started by me asking you to share with our audience more about you, how you grew up, what made you have this purpose and passion that drives your being, and what it is that you do.
Thank you, Vera. My childhood was quite a mixture of obstacles, lots of challenges. I grew up in a racial discrimination era. It left its mark on me, as it often does. There were some really great high points of my childhood. Those high points were fostered by what my parents taught me. They both had a migrant field worker background, third and fifth grade education, but they had this desire, very progressive thinking for their age, to get out of the box that they were born into and seemed stuck in. And the thing that I remember the most is you don't have to be stuck. You don't have to always be poor. You don't always have to be uneducated. You don't have to settle for less unless you want to, but you'll have to work really hard. You'll have to overcome those obstacles. You'll have to stay motivated, and you'll just have to figure it out because there is a lot that we don't know to teach you. We're learning as we go. we'll pass the mantle to you, and then you learn and figure those things out. And I did. What did I get from my childhood? All of what I just said, plus a very strong work ethic that involved helping other people in whatever way we could. There were different things that my parents did to help others, like giving them food sometimes, letting them use our phone. The neighborhood that I grew up in, hardly anyone had a telephone. And so everyone knew they could come to my house and they could make phone calls or get phone calls. If the school called and wanted to talk about one of their children, then we would set up that meeting. So always a service minded attitude. Now, I grew up thinking I wanted to do one of three things. I wanted to be a guitar rock star. I love guitars. I don't know how to play them, but I wanted to be a guitar rock star. I also wanted to be an attorney. And there's one more thing I wanted to do, but it
What's
didn't
that?
happen either. I wanted to be a nun. Yes,
Okay.
yes. So I didn't become a nun. I am not a rock star, and I am not an attorney. Although I took the LSAT more than once. And finally, it was this conversation with God that said, okay, I've taken the LSAT more than once. And the only time I thought I would actually get a good score, there was this storm in this theater that I was taking the test in. And there were probably 200 people taking the LSAT, and there was a storm. And the proctor, she didn't know what to do. And she made a phone call and she said, everyone has to put down their test and they have to walk out in the foyer while I make some decisions. She came back and she said, you have two choices. You can go in and complete the test and take the score. Or if you think that the disruption has so affected your ability to concentrate and get a good score, you can just leave and you'll be able to take it again for free. I'm thinking, no, I am not coming back. I'm doing it. And I'm ready. I'm not going to let a little distraction sway me from this. This is my time. I went in and frankly speaking, I don't even remember the score, but I just really had a deep reflection of maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to do. I ended up in seminary and I remember thinking about how counseling could help people get out of their stuck places, motivate them to be who they want to be, to do the things that they could. And so I went to seminary. I spent 3 years in seminary getting my counseling degree, and the rest is history.
Wow. Well, you know what? You said a lot. And I want to kind of backtrack when you said your parents were. Well, first, I want to acknowledge our guests that are listening in on. Ra, ooh, thank you so much for watching. He's got a trauma talk event coming up
Mm.
in June that I'm praying to be a part of. He's got me on his promo, so I'm going to be there as a speaker, and so I'll be pushing and promoting that in a minute. One of the other things, he gives us the hearts of love. Thank you. He also says no distractions, absolutely no distractions, and then he says, "Wow, yeah, your story is quite a story." And you said your parents were immigrant workers.
No, they were migrant workers.
Migrant workers, okay.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
where are you from originally?
Well, I was born in the United States. One of my parents was born in Texas. They migrated over from Mexico. And my other parent is from Mexico and have their family ties there. But
Oh,
they did not have to uh, become citizens because they were already naturalized by living being born in the United States.
awesome.
So
Awesome.
I am
Awesome.
I am Mexican American.
Okay, all right. And you, one of the things you mentioned during the course of your childhood, you talked about experiencing discrimination. And what impact did that have on you?
It made me wonder, like it did a lot of other kids that were minorities. It made us wonder, really? Why am I dreaming that I can be anything different than what I am? I've been born into this stature, and I'm probably just going to get a regular job like everybody else at the packing plant, at the nursing home, at wherever those places would take someone without education and didn't have great speaking abilities. And I remember in particular the school counselor, and it was towards the end of the school year, and she started to ask people to come down so she could talk about their educational pursuits. But it didn't take long, because as people would come back, we would say, "What did she tell you? Well, what did she tell you?" Well, she told all of us kind of the same story. You aren't smart enough. You don't have enough money to be a nurse, much less a doctor. An attorney, no way. That's not going to happen for you. But here are some really good choices that you can get a pretty good paying job, and you can just stay there forever if you want to, but you got to work really hard. Well, those choices included being a hairstylist, going to beauty school as it was called, becoming a mechanic, and a nurse's aide. So it was pretty limited. And so we all kind of got the same story of discouragement. And I remember in particular a friend of mine, a couple years older. I asked her one time, probably about 10 or 15 years ago. I was at the University of Wyoming, and she was the dean of students there. And I asked her, I said, "How did you do this? You graduated high school, which was a feat in itself for the neighborhood kids that I grew up with. But then you went to college? Really? How'd you do that? Because I didn't know your parents had like money tucked away for that. And then you went on to get an advanced degree. You have a PhD." She said, "Do you remember so and so, the school counselor?" I said, "Yeah, like a nightmare." She said, "It was what she said to me and to everyone else." And I said, "I'm going to prove you wrong. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to prove you wrong." And she did.
And you did too.
I
Yes,
did.
you did too. And we're going to be talking about your training and how you can help people deal with their emotions, because we have so many angry people out here. So many people that are full of themselves and or lack within themselves.
Mhm.
And you are a perfect example of how you do not have to allow other people to dictate who you are or what you can do or how
Mhm.
you can do. Just like Eleanor Roosevelt said, no one can make you feel inferior without your permission. And
Correct.
this counselor, and that I had a counselor tell me that the only thing I'll ever be able to do is be a secretary.
Wow.
And the thing is, I don't have the personality for a secretary. I tried it,
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
doesn't work. But anyway, let's talk about, well, let me ask you, because we're talking about emotions. How did you feel when you were told those things?
I was pretty angry. I was pretty discouraged. I was pretty sad. Those I remember pretty prominent. And I just want to emphasize the the careers that I mentioned earlier. I am not saying that those are not good careers. Those are
No,
not
not at
good
all.
jobs. It's just that it was that and nothing more. That was the bar. And if you could even meet that bar, you were doing well. And anyone who's accomplished any of those careers that I mentioned or job places, kudos to you. Getting back to emotions, when you are raised in an environment where there doesn't seem to be any control, any information, any understanding of other ways to handle tough situations, if you're around ducks all the time, you're going to try really hard to be a duck, even if you're not. And so you take on the ways of the environment, you take on the ways of the experiences, and it boils down to what you have learned to deal with those situations. And that's where our emotions come into play. Conflict management really is beyond emotions because conflict management is more about communication. And you can take a person who has communication degrees, has communication opportunities, has a job where that's all they do. But that doesn't mean that they have good communication skills when it comes to conflict management. People often think conflict management is about just controlling emotions. There's a difference between controlling and managing emotions. Controlling is about suppressing emotions, denial of them, and pretense. And that's what I learned growing up. Managing, it's different. Managing is taking a deep dive into understanding ourselves and others, acceptance of ourselves and others, and choosing to learn more about emotions. Most people, if you ask them to talk about their common reactions of emotions, they'll come up with 3 to 5 at the most. Those are the go-to emotions. Good communication is a game changer to managing emotions, which is essential to positive relationships in our personal and professional lives.
That's beautiful. And we're going to talk about, you said there's a difference between managing your emotions and suppressing your emotions. When we suppress our emotions, that can add fuel to the fire because you're suppressing your thoughts and feelings. So we're going to take a commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how to avoid suppressing, how to effectively communicate how you are feeling and communicate in such a way that it's going to be effective communications. So we're going to do a commercial and we will be right back.
Hallelujah.
Hey there, Jason McNamara here, and I'm about to drop something truly game-changing your way. Are you tired of the same old 9-to-5 grind, feeling stuck in obtaining the life you deserve and craving something more? Well, listen up, because I've got something you will not want to miss. Introducing the No More 9-to-5 Club Professional Membership, your ticket to freedom and success in the entrepreneurial world. With our professional membership, you'll get access to weekly coaching sessions, pre-recorded trainings, and a vibrant community of fellow game changers. You get access to technology that will allow you to automate passive income streams, as well as unlock all of our expert-led trainings in the back office so you know where to go for good advice when you need it. You will also use the club to build up a residual income stream with a 2-tier 33% affiliate commission unlocked at this level, allowing you to help people help themselves while generating a residual passive income stream for yourself. And here's the kicker. For a limited time, you can unlock all of this just for a $1.11 donation to our club foundation.
I like this one.
Your first month is on us. So what's holding you back? Click the link below, make your donation, and let's start building the life and business of your dreams together. Here at the No More 9-to-5 Club, we're all about turning dreams into reality and smashing through those glass ceilings.
That's what I'm talking about, Jake.
Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, we've got the tools and support you need to thrive and evolve. And don't forget to sign up for our bootcamp training. It's the perfect way to kickstart your journey and unlock even more perks. So what are you waiting for? Join the No More 9-to-5 Club today and let's make those dreams a reality. I can't wait to see you on the inside. You only get one now. Invest it in your better future. Let's make magic happen together.
No more 9 to 5. Let me tell you, this is an awesome organization of networking, masterminding, and a way to add to your streams of income. You might want to check out this organization. No more 9 to 5. And membership you can get in for $1.11, and that money goes to the veterans. So you want to check out No More 9 to 5. I put the link in the comments. Check it out. Come to a meeting. As a matter of fact, there's a meeting going on Thursday night. It starts at 7, so you need to go on after my show. But check out No More 9 to 5. And I'm going to play another one regarding this trauma event that's coming up in New York.
Ah, you amazing souls. I see that you have a lot of questions, and I understand. And all this is about the upcoming mental health conference right here in New York City on the 24th and 25th of April. I understand more than anyone else, attending an in-person conference is very overwhelming. And you may have a lot of concerns about the audience and selling your products and the value of your talk. However, I want to assure you that as a speaker, your voice and experiences have immense value. Your journey, struggles, and the person you have become are incredibly powerful, and by sharing your story on stage, you're offering something unique and impactful. Remember that you are not just selling a product or service, but rather sharing a part of yourself that can inspire and make a difference in the lives of those who listen. As for attendees, please believe in the influence you have cultivated through your followers. New York City is a vibrant hub of energy, and I have no doubt that many of your amazing followers will be eager to hear you speak and meet you in person, as well as experience the incredible energy you have to share. Your presence alone will be a magnet for those who resonate with your message. You see, I speak from experience when I say that this conference is an opportunity for you to make a significant impact. Your trauma talk is a vision that has been brewing for a while. Now it is a reality. See that? I want to encourage you now to click that link and help me to make a difference right now. All you need to do is take the first step and invest in yourself and register, and Ra will meet you in person in New York City, where we can connect and share more powerful energy. This is Ra, and I love you all.
No more trauma talk. Let me tell you, if you've been through a whole bunch of stuff, if you've had trauma, one of the reasons for the trauma is so that you can share with others so that they understand they're not alone, and that they understand that just because our trauma exists, it does not define who we are or what we are to become. It may help to shape us, but it doesn't define us. So check out No More Trauma Talk that's coming up in June 13th in New York. I'm going to be there. Want to see you there. And I'm excited because the venue is on Broadway. And there are so many things that the organizer, Ra, has planned for speakers that are coming and for the guests that they bring. So check out No More Trauma Talk. The link is in the chat, and I hope to see you there. Or if you're interested in being a speaker, fill out the information and join me on the stage. No More Trauma Talk. All right. Now, we'll come back to other commercials, but let's get back into our conversation. Now, explain how people can get past suppressing their emotions. And we're talking positive emotions or even negative emotions. Sometimes when people are happy, they hold it in, you know? And so let's talk about what are some of the things that people can do to control their emotions.
Well, Vera, there are many facets to emotions. Where do they come from? Can they be controlled? Why are they important? And how can they be used to improve all types of relationships? And what does neurodiversity and neuroscience tell us about emotions? Emotions come from inside of us and are affected by outside factors like stressful situations. They come from certain brain structures that process emotional stimuli and regulate physiological responses associated with emotions. They also come from chemical messengers in our brain known as neurotransmitters. They come from hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline that also influence emotional states and responses to stress. Emotions also come from social and cultural factors, past experiences, perceptions, and interpretations. Emotions are good. They help us form and nurture relationships. They help us understand when a person needs help. They give us cues when we misread the room, so to speak, or misinterpret someone else's tone of voice, expressions, and mostly words. Emotions are important to our overall health and well being. They are essential to life. They should not be suppressed. They tell people who we are, what we're about. Emotions also tell us when we need to step up, make some improvements, listen more, and talk less. When we are in a heightened emotional state, we are not in what Dr. Stephen Porges calls the ventral vagal, where we can problem solve, take in new information. It's a state of active attention and calmness. Good communication most definitely affects how we manage our emotions. So, here are some aspects of good communication, what you just asked for, some management things. One of them is style. What's your style when it comes to people who are different than you are? How do you accept and adapt to their communication style or when you're in conflict with someone? Active listening. Do you really take a step back and just listen without judging or preparing your answer in your head that requires divided focus while the other person is speaking? Folks who do this often fall prey to misinterpretations and misunderstandings. What about emotional intelligence? Can you read another's state of being? Are they calm or distracted, confused, or just don't comprehend what's going on? How do you adjust? Are you aware of when you're not in control? And how do you manage your emotions if you're not? Also, knowing about communication blockers is another tool for improving communication, which again helps develop emotional regulation. Some of those blockers are interrupting. Why do you interrupt? What's your motive? What about advising without an invitation to offer advice? Why is it important to you to offer advice? What does it say about you? And then globalizing, using words like always, never, that often are not true. This distracts from the discussion. What about dominating the conversation? If you do this, the other party is forced to use their own communication blocker to stop the domination. And then, lastly, but not all, is probing. probing with a lot of unnecessary questions using why, when, who. This blocker makes the speaker feel like interrogation is going on, and now they have to prove what they're saying. These are a few that lead to mismanagement of emotions. So,
Uh,
managing emotions boils down to mindset about conflict and emotional reactions.
okay, great information. Now, let's apply it.
Okay.
Now, when we talk about effective communications, if a person is angry and they still want to have dialogue, and the other person is trying not to get angry, if a person is facing someone who is angry, what are some things that the other person can do to one, possibly diffuse the anger, or possibly help the angry person understand how impactful that behavior may be? Talk to us.
There are so many things that a person who is emotionally deregulated or overreactive, there are so many things at our disposal. As I've observed people I work with and learn about neuroscience, I've developed a technique I call reaction number and reaction time. And it uses a 0 to 10 scale and a 100% ranking to describe efficiency and optimum performance when you're in the thick of emotional regulation. This technique teaches emotional management through learning, here it comes, to reevaluate a situation. That's the first thing that can be most helpful is when you look at a situation, it's stressful, heat is up, people are not happy. They're letting you know it with their posturing, their gestures, their words. You need to look at the situation and ask yourself, is this a 10? Meaning it's the highest level of disturbance? Because if it's a 10, yeah, I'm going to be expressing, behaving, and talking like a 10 would warrant. But what if I have evaluated the situation incorrectly? What if it's an 8? What do I sound like at an 8? What do I do at an 8? What if it's a 6? And so it's relearning and taking the time to reassess the situation that will determine the reaction that you give it. Here's another tip. We all know it. It's called good breath. Taking a minute, the way I teach people, and there's many ways, the way I teach people is count on your fingers how long it takes you to be fully inhaled. Hold it for a nanosecond. And then when you think that you're completely inhaled, do something like this. Now you know that you are completely filled with air. Now you start to take a slow exhale because slow exhales put us into that part of the autonomic nervous system called parasympathetic, where we're calm. We can think, we can bring in new information. So you breathe real slow. So for me, I'm fully inhaled at 3. Doesn't take much. When I exhale through my lips, it's 10.
Well, this is awesome because breathing, we know the impact that breathing has. And let me make a comment here. Raul, he says, Sonia, come tell your story in New York City on the grand stage.
I will think about that. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes. And so, in looking at the breathing, we know that breathing can calm you down.
Mhm.
Breathing can help center you. Breathing can help you be more focused on the now and not all this stuff that's causing these emotions.
The occurrence of breathing, when you inhale, it can be the same effect as being in that fight or flight mode, which is also the sympathetic nerve. When we exhale and we do a deeper, prolonged exhale, it brings us into what's called the parasympathetic. Now we're calm. Now we can think through. We can speak differently. All the physiological changes that have been going on in our body, the increased heart rate, the increased blood pressure, and all those other things, now they begin to normalize. And now we can have the conversation. It doesn't mean that we're in agreement and that we're not angry anymore, but now we're in a different place where we can take in information and we can say what we need to say to be heard and understood.
Absolutely. And Raul, he says breathing is the main ingredient to meditation. He
Mhm.
talks about yoga breathing, exercise is breathing. And even if you are not meditating, even though meditation is wonderful, if you don't meditate, still practice the breathing. Now, when we get all riled up and upset and emotional, we can feel that coming on. We
Mhm.
can feel it. So, awareness precedes change. If we can stay in tune with our emotions at the time that we're feeling it and put ourselves in check.
Yeah. And I like what you said about what you just did about we know. That's actually a term that is called interoception. So it's this like this little alarm robot that is going all throughout our body all the time. It doesn't sleep, it doesn't take vacations, it's always there. And it is mapping, it is looking for perceptions, real or not, of harm and threatening situations. And then it rings off those bells and says, alarm, alarm, fear, fear. Then our head gets the message. It happens first in the body. Then it goes to the head. A lot of folks think it's the reverse, but it's not. Our bodies are so uniquely, so divinely, so perfectly made that it tells us, hey, something could be going on. And so we increase our breath because that takes us into fight or flight. Are we going to fight this perception of fear off, or are we going to run from it? And now we find out that there is no real fear, and we begin to breathe down in our exhale. And now we can say, oh, that wasn't a real bear. Oh, there's nothing to be afraid of. Now we are calm. That's what breath can do.
I know, but like Raul, he says, ignorant people are never aware of these things.
Hmm.
Well, ignorance means lack of knowledge. And
Hmm.
so when we become aware, if we become aware and we still don't do these things, it's no longer ignorance. It's a willful intent not to want to do better.
Hmm.
And then he also says, yes, the body is the first alarm. We feel it in our bodies. I
Hmm.
know when anger starts, it starts building. I mean, you can feel it. You can feel it coming on.
Hmm.
And when that happens, then we need to also put ourselves in check.
Hmm.
One, by breathing. Two, maybe set aside, go away from the situation. Think about your reaction and response and then come back and deal with it
Sure.
calmly.
Yeah. The only caveat that I would throw out to that is to make sure that you are not trying to control, because that's very unnatural, and we don't need to do a control technique. What we need to do is learn how to manage it,
Yes,
because
manage.
then we don't deny our emotions that are very much a part of us.
Right. And then he says some are aware of how they treat people and they continue to do so, and some are not uneducated.
Hmm.
Of course, People have these, I mean, we have a lot of visceral negativity going on in our country today, and a lot of anger is being expressed
Mhm.
through hateful actions and reactions. We need to be able to understand whose we are, and how we are acting, because we can't control how other people react, relate, or respond. We
Mhm.
can only control ourselves. So if we
However,
can,
however, we can influence them.
right, and we influence them by showing the control that we ourselves have
Mhm.
in managing and not suppressing, but managing our own emotions through effective communications. You talked about, let's talk about, okay, and then he says a lot, especially with those horrible economies and the stupid war. Yes, all of that. Absolutely. So let's give our audience some communications techniques, some things that they can do and verbalize to help deal with emotions.
There's one particular technique that is very simple. And if you don't remember anything, remember this one. It's the common courtesy, irregardless of where you are, where you live, your socioeconomic background, educated or not. And that is acknowledgement and validation. Easiest thing to do. And some people I work with, they say, I don't know how to acknowledge. That sounds stupid to me. I acknowledge you. Okay. I don't know how to validate. It sounds stupid to say, I validate you. Okay, I get it. Some people love those words. They have no problem with using them. Here is what it also means. I heard you.
Yes.
Imagine what it's like when you go into a store, a restaurant, and you stand there for what seems several minutes. And it's as if you're not even there. And all you want is to be recognized as being another human being in front of them and say, be right with you. Acknowledgement and validation. Or when you call and you have a complaint about something and they dump it back into your lap and they say, well, how would you like me to handle this? Oh, I know. You probably want us to take so much off of your bill, right? No, I'm looking for acknowledgement and validation. That means you just heard me. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the reason, even if it's a good one, but I want to be validated. I want to be heard. So that's another one.
All right. And let's take it, we're going to switch it around. When we are talking with our children, or we are talking with another individual, and we see that they're going through some stuff, or we see that they're becoming angry, then not only do we want validation, but we need to be able to give validation as well. So, in a case where you see someone getting angry, rather than you starting to get angry, maybe by taking those breaths, we might be able to say something like, I can see that you're really getting angry here, and validate the feelings that you're noticing. And once validating it, and the other person saying, yeah, I am pretty angry right now, and
Mhm,
then let's talk, or let's calm ourselves and deal with this.
mhm.
And then Raul is saying listening plays an important part in suicide awareness as well. Being aware, being able to see and listen and hear what people are throwing out there, the emotions that we see taking place, and being able to acknowledge the emotions, like the scenario about going into a store and feeling overlooked. One of the ways that one might be able to deal with that is by saying to the cashier, or or whoever it is that we feel is ignoring us, we might want to say something like, looks like you may be having a difficult day,
Mhm.
and or how can I help you better serve me.
Mhm. Sure.
You know, and being able to communicate, it's a two-way street.
Yeah. And that again goes back to what I said about the difference between controlling and managing emotions, because controlling emotions is all about pretense. So if I have to manage, if I have to control and I can't express them, that's pretense. I'm pretending I'm not upset. I'm pretending that the situation really is okay. It's kind of like the ostrich putting their head in the sand and hoping that when they bring it back out, all is good. And so the idea isn't to pretend. We don't have to just let our ugly hang out. That's not what this is about. But
No,
that's why we need to learn good communication. Because I like your
absolutely.
example. I like the way that you built on it. And you said, man, it looks like you're really busy right now. Okay, I'll just stand here and I'll wait for a minute. Because we can also acknowledge and validate the other person.
Yes.
And then
And
they
I,
say, you know what? Yeah, I'm so sorry, but I'm feeling pretty overwhelmed right now.
yes. And another thing, if a person is having, because what you just described, the holding things in, that's that passive aggressive kind of behavior, becoming, keeping things inside so much that you begin to explode
Yeah,
at the top tip of the
yeah,
hat.
yeah.
So when you are the individual feeling these kinds of things, acknowledge and say, you know what? I'm feeling really angry right now, or I'm feeling really sad right now,
Mhm,
or I'm feeling unheard right now,
mhm.
and acknowledging that. And then Ra, he's saying, Sonia Serta, you are amazing. I love you. Thanks for this. Vera, thanks for always promoting positivity. Much love. Much love to you too, my brother. All right. So yes, being able to, and then there's some techniques for that people can use to calm themselves. We
Mhm.
talked about the breathing, but there's some other techniques that you and I had talked about before the show. So let's kind of share some of these other things that people can do to regulate
Mhm.
themselves, to acknowledge what they're feeling, but also to control, to
Sure,
comment.
sure.
Okay, go
Well,
ahead.
one thing I wanted to just add when you said about suppressing and internalizing emotions, there's also that's part of the polyvagal theory. And what it means is when we are in that state, it's called the dorsal vagal complex. We are in a freeze response. And that freeze response is a passive defensive strategy. And when it's activated, we see immobilization, dissociation, and shutdown. And then people say, well, what's going on? They are so internalized. It's not a safe environment for them to really say, I'm really upset right now. I don't like what you just said. And so rather than build up the emotions, because once they're built up, the other person thinks they need to respond in kind. So that is another part of that, why we need to focus more on good communication rather than just controlling emotions. But a couple of other techniques. You were talking about the parent talking to the child. Another technique that comes from emotionally focused couple therapy, and it's just looking at that person, and if they are okay with being touched, you can hold their hand, you can take their shoulder, you can put your hand on their knee if you're sitting down, and you ask four magic words. What do you need? Or what do you want? And sometimes we're startled when the response is, I just want you to acknowledge me. I just want you to just hear me. I don't want you to do anything. I don't want any advice. I don't want you to agree. Just be here in this moment with me. And sometimes as parents, we don't know what to say to our kid. And sometimes they don't either. But just that softening of the voice and that
Yes.
reaching out with that invitation, I'm not quite sure what to do right now. What would help you? So that's
Yes.
another technique. Another one is, of course, EFT tapping, where you tap on meridians. Very, very, very easy to learn. So super effective.
It
You
is.
tap on a problem or a situation on the meridians throughout your body. Meridians, tapping is similar to acupuncture without the needles. What you're doing is you are accessing those and interrupting those meridians with your fingers. Very, very effective, easy to learn.
It is. And the other thing, we talked about PDQ or
Mhm.
PQ,
PQ.
where you can actually, if you're feeling tense, upset, angry, you can start
Mhm.
doing this with your
Yeah,
fingers and then rubbing and feeling your hand, and that will help to calm you down.
yeah.
And I'm
The pre
telling
the
you, it,
yeah. The premise of PQ is positive affirmations, visualizations, and kinetic touch with yourself. Because if you don't have anyone else down to kind of co-regulate with you, you can do this anytime wherever you're at. A positive affirmation, it can be this wherever whatever you choose to do. There's different ways to do it. And the magic is how it calms you down, how it gets you centered and gets
it's
you focused.
amazing. I have used it. In fact, and I'll just share this. I One of my clients is a child who experienced being bullied,
Mhm,
and I used this PQ method with him. First of all, having him affirm who he is and
mhm,
understanding that no one can make you feel any kind of way without your permission.
mhm,
So I had him start affirming who he is and also using this PQ to calm himself.
mhm,
And the past two sessions, I've asked him, well, are you still being bullied? And he said, oh, no, I'm not being bullied anymore because he took control.
mhm,
He took back his power,
mhm,
you know.
mhm.
And so we're talking about ways that people can regulate, can ex- acknowledge
Mhm.
what you're feeling. And even you may even say to someone, I'm feeling this right now. I'm uncomfortable saying to you how I'm feeling, but I need to let you know this is how I'm feeling so that you can acknowledge what I'm feeling
Yep.
and we can get past some of this stuff.
Mhm. I love PQ, positive psychology, because it really is about self affirmation and
And
visualization and
regulation.
and touching. And so if someone is not acknowledging you, as I talked about before, if no one really cares, they may not even be aware, or they may not know how to enter into your space of emotional regulation. They may be afraid, they may feel inadequate, embarrassed. But with PQ, this is where we can say, okay, if no one else can affirm me, I can. If I just got bullied at school and I was told I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm stupid, I'm whatever, fill in the blank. Oh, no, I'm not. I am complete. I am beautiful. I am intelligent.
Absolutely. And it makes a difference.
Sure does.
People bully because hurt people, and people bully us because we allow them to do so.
Mhm.
And once we learn how to control ourselves and speak life into ourselves, then no one can cause us to feel inferior once we understand that and
Yeah.
get a hold of that.
And
And
again, yeah, and going back to managing emotions, Vera, that's another reason it is absolutely paramount that we learn good communication, because if for whatever reason we cannot communicate well with our environment, we can learn to communicate to ourselves.
yes, speak life into yourself. Human beings destroy other human beings. Yes, they do. But We don't have to allow them to destroy us. We can speak life into ourselves when others are trying to speak death unto us by harsh words, evil thoughts, misbehaviors, and all those kinds of things. Now, I've got another commercial, and you realize we only got 4 minutes left in this,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
When we first started, you were concerned when I said an hour. You're like, an hour, yes. And now you see it's almost over. Let me do this commercial right quick and we'll come right back.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mama Knows creates high quality products that are available to be used on multiple textures of hair. Her goal is to bridge the gap to stop people from having to use multiple products because of families with multiple hair types. Her products are currently being used on men, women, children of all ethnicities. Mama Knows products are available at www.mamaknowsproducts.com. That's www.mamaknowsproducts.com. You can also find her on Instagram at Mama Knows Products because, you know, Mama knows what you need.
Let me tell you about these products. They are amazing. They smell great and they're for all ethnicities, boys, girls, men, and women. Shampoos, conditioners, hair serums, moisturizers. She just has a whole lot of different products for your hair to help it make it stronger and healthier. So, you want to check out Mama Knows products. Why? Because Mama knows what you need. All right. All right. So, Sonia, we've only got like 3 minutes. And so I'm going to give you the floor. We got 2 minutes now. I'm going to give you
Okay.
the floor and just share anything and everything else you want our listening audience to know and take away from this show, things that they can do.
Learn to be a better communicator. Communication is easy to learn, to get trained in, to practice. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming because you don't have an education or any of those other obstacles. Any obstacle, most can really be overcome. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and how you've patterned yourself either from your childhood or going forward, the group that you run around in. Don't be afraid to learn new habits of how to deal with emotions. Emotions are they're wonderful. Let them be the pathway into your success.
Amen. And I'm just putting some things in the chat as you're talking about this stuff. So awesome. Well, listen, audience, we appreciate those that came and thank you, Raul, for sharing your thoughts about everything that we've talked about. And he's saying something else. Let me see. I want to make sure I get all his. Okay. He says, why is 1 hour a restriction? One, because how much longer will people really want to listen? They tell us that normally videos are people listen for maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. You know, my show is an hour, and it is my hope and desire that people will listen to it for the entire hour because we're here to uplift, encourage, motivate, inspire, and
Mhm.
educate people. And we just did that tonight, all of that tonight. So thank you so much for being my guest. And I want to ask you to please hold on as I shut down, and I'll bring you back up in a minute, okay? Listen, thank you, audience, for being here. Thank you for your feedback. And please share this this particular show with other people that could benefit from learning how to regulate and control their anger from a positive perspective, not just their anger, but all emotions. Learn to handle your emotions. And with that, thank you very much for being here. God bless, and I will see you next week.
The